Hey everybody, it's Rick Silva. Hey, thanks very much for getting on. Saturday morning, I know we all have busy lives and we really appreciate it. So I just want to kind of lay the groundwork of how this works and then what you're going to see today from Marcella. So once again, thanks for getting on. We had a number of people registered and it always takes sometimes it takes a long time for it actually to load on the computer and get the audio going. This is why we start a few minutes late. So thanks again for your patience. So again, I'm Rick Silva. The reason my contact information is on the screen is because I want to explain how the Valour land banking process normally works. So normally, if we have someone interested in investing, we get a dollar amount and then we contact Valour and we do our best to find a property that matches the dollar amount. So let's say somebody had $50,000 available. We would go to Valour and we'd try to find, like a $45,000 to $48,000 property that matched their available funds. Once in a while, we get a phone call from Valour and they say, hey, we've got a couple amazing properties available. No one put a request in for this dollar amount. Would you like to try to offer them to your database? So that's what we're doing today. So we've got two awesome properties. They're both solar plays. Marcella will go into great detail about that. The prices are $28,500 and $115,000. I want to let you know about the $115,000. Not everyone has that kind of money. We can always build partnerships. So if somebody wanted, let's say, $30,000 of that property, we could find up to 3 other people to fill in the gap. So up to 4 people can own one property. So even if it's out of your price range, we can build a partnership. Secondly, this is first come, first serve when we do this. So that's the reason my information's on the screen. If you're interested in one of these properties, it's the first person to email me or text me. rick@dirtisgold.com is my email address. My text is on the screen, 510-755-4556. It's the first person to contact me, and then down the line. So if a person says they're interested, maybe they don't have the funds ready, or it just doesn't work out, then we go to the second person on down the line. So that's how it works. It's first come, first serve. So I want to give you a real quick, most of you know Marcella and I, but Marcella, if you don't know it, was a software engineer with Lawrence Livermore Lab, and taking those skills and putting those into putting these profiles together. So these two properties you see, Marcella receives a piece of paper with a black square on it. She has to then go on the internet for hours and hours and hours to put together these profiles. So what you're going to see in, let's say, an hour to an hour and a half today takes 6 to 8 hours, maybe even 10 hours to put together. It's a lot of time behind the scenes that you don't see. So I'm going to proudly say I think Marcella is probably the best in the company at doing this. Her profiles are absolutely amazing. Whether you're interested in investing or not, I can guarantee you are going to receive a real estate education today that you wouldn't get any other way. So again, thanks for getting on. And here's Marcella to show you the properties. See you soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rick, and good morning, everyone. We appreciate you spending your Saturday morning learning about land banking and seeing the properties that we have available for you guys today. I'm excited to show you them, and they all specifically have to do with what is now being termed as the greatest shift of wealth in the history of the world. That is a huge statement to make, and this has come about through years of correlation of data and understanding kind of what's happening around various different industries to cause this shift of wealth. And I'm going to give you a glimpse of what that means today and how it directly affects the largest land rush in California's history. And it all has to do with something every one of us uses every single day, which is energy. We cannot wake up without checking our cell phones. What would we do without our cell phones? Or, just everything that we do has to do with energy, and our energy consumption continues to rise. If you think about it, 10, 20 years ago, not everybody had cell phones and iPads and laptops and everything that we plug in and charge. We would be dead in the water without that energy. So how it's relating directly to us is massive amounts of land is being consumed right now, and we're terming this as energy real estate because of this large land rush, all for solar utility scale and wind projects that are happening in very specific areas of California. It is not going to happen everywhere. California is very restrictive for where these types of projects are allowed. Plus, the environment has to fit what they're trying to do as well. You know, you're not going to get a whole ton of sun right on the coast where it's foggy and there's a lot of cloud cover. So there's a lot of different factors that play into that. And of course, this is something we've been watching since the beginning, since around 2006, 2007 is really when it started, by the passing of AB 32. And these are some assembly bills and Senate bills that were passed here in California mandating alternative energy. So the current goal is to get to 33% of California's energy coming from alternative energy sources by the year 2020. Our next step is to hit 40%, a minimum of 40% by the year 2030, and we are well on our way to reaching that. But there's also, they're trying to cut back on carbon emissions, and the carbon emissions are continuing to rise as well. So we're going to look a little bit closer at what's happening around this. Ultimately, California's ultimate goal is to be 80% clean energy by the year 2050. And right now they're trying to push through another bill. This has not been passed yet, but you can kind of see the direction that we're heading in, where California wants to be 100% renewable energies by the year 2045, which would put our interim goal of 50% by the year 2030. So this is the shift of wealth that I'm talking about, shifting from fossil fuel energies to alternative energies. And if you think about the wealthiest people on earth, and what has created a tremendous amount of wealth has been the control of energy sources, specifically around fossil fuels. But as most things do, change happens, and we're changing in a big way here in California. So it's not just California that has these individual mandates. Also, there's plenty of cities as well and other states throughout the country. San Francisco, for example, they want to be 100% renewable power by the year 2030. And, sorry, excuse me. The city of San Francisco sits on roughly 29,000 acres of land. I think around 1 million people live in San Francisco. So we kind of figured out how much land is needed to power X amount of population. And based off of those calculations that we've done, we figured California would need roughly 25,000 acres of land to power their city. The problem is San Francisco doesn't have 25,000 acres of land. The entire city itself is 29,000 acres. So the question is, where are they going to be getting those renewable energy sources? And putting it on tops of buildings is not going to do it. San Diego, they're another city that is planning to be 100% renewable energy. LA, they are also committing to going to 100% renewable energy as well. And for the city of LA, here's the numbers. So the city of Lancaster, some of you may know, they committed to going to 100% renewable energy by the year 2020, and they are very close to hitting that goal. They will be the very first net zero city in the entire country. And of course, they are a perfect example for a lot of other cities. So a lot of cities are going to them to learn how they did it. Well, they needed 5,000 acres of land to be able to create enough energy to power a population of 170,000 people. LA, just the city of LA, we're not talking about the surrounding areas, but just the actual city of LA is 3.5 million people. So if we worked out those same numbers, they would need 105,000 acres of land in order to power the city of Los Angeles. Again, they don't have the land necessary to be able to put up enough of solar projects to do that. Also, mega corporations are committing to going 100% green, and it's saving them a lot of money by doing this as well. Several Fortune 500 and 100 companies, a lot of them you probably recognize, from Walmart to Apple, GM, Johnson & Johnson, Nike, Facebook, Coca-Cola, all the big companies are committing to doing this as well. This is a quote from Michael Eckert, who is the managing group of Citibank. And what he says is renewable energy is subject to manufacturing economics. Products go down in cost the more you make. And he has been involved in the alternative energy field since the 70s. He also goes on to say fossil fuels are resource oriented, so the cost of the resource goes up the more you use. Fundamentally, you have two curves that are going to cross, and they have crossed in the last 3 years. Basically, we've hit the tipping point where alternative energy is a cheaper energy source than traditional fossil fuel energies. Because a lot of people talk about climate change and, a better environment. Yes, that is a very noble cause. Some people believe in it, some people don't. That really doesn't matter. Ultimately, what it's coming down to is money. And where is the most money going to be made, and where is it the cheapest? So solar now is declining to unprecedented lows, and it's no surprising that in correlation we're seeing huge amounts of solar jobs being created, 17 times faster than the rest of the economy. It's funny how they don't put this type of stuff in the news. So on top of a rapidly growing job market, of course, like I mentioned, solar energy is getting cheaper. And by the way, all of this beginning part, yes, I'm not going over the properties yet, but all of this is building the foundation to understand why we are investing in these areas and in this particular types of land. Some of you may already have some of this background information, but I know there's several new people on here today as well. So you can see the cost of solar back in the 70s where it was $76 per watt. I mean, that's not doable at all. By 2013, they were at 74 cents per watt. Still not cheap enough by then. Here, this is coming from the U.S. Department of Energy Annual Energy Outlook, showing the cost per kilowatt hour of various different types of energies. You can see the fossil fuels are between 7 to 15 cents. Solar was at around 12 cents at the time. But of course, technology, it seems to speed up and goes quicker and quicker at a shorter amount of time. I think that's called Moore's Law. Anyways, you can see here in Dubai in 2016, they were able to produce solar energy for as little as 3 cents per kilowatt hour. 3 cents per kilowatt hour. There was no other energy source that cheaper. And as fossil fuels, we start depleting those sources, it's just going to cost more and more in order to extract that. Versus the solar, it all is technology related and getting cheaper. So of course, fossil fuel industry has been losing jobs steadily since 2012. Let's see what's happening with the oil tycoons and the people who've created tremendous wealth through fossil fuels and oil. Namely, Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller. If he was alive today, he would be the wealthiest man on earth. And all of that wealth, of course, was created through his oil fortune. And if you look at his heirs right now, they have committed to completely divesting their oil fortune because of climate change. So they're moving away from it, and it's also because they see the writing on the wall that the oil is not going to be consumed forever. T. Boone Pickens, another oil tycoon. Billionaire T. Boone Pickens sells all of his oil holdings. So when you start seeing these guys who created the wealth from the oil selling it off, there must be a reason for that. Saudi Arabia, kingdom built on oil, plans on selling it off and moving those funds towards alternative energy facilities. This was the oil prime minister of Saudi Arabia. The Stone Age did not end for lack of stone, and the oil age will end long before the world runs out of oil. Shell also is preparing for lower forever oil prices. They said when it will happen, we don't know, but that it will happen, we are certain that petroleum and oil demands will eventually decline. Shell is moving away from oil and towards the clean energy sector. And this is going for a lot of other companies as well, including BP, Exxon, several other of the large oil companies have already started looking at the future for alternative energies. This is an article coming from Bloomberg. They are predicting oil death spiral as early as 2023, and it has specifically to do with an explosion of electric cars on the road. This is really the main catalyst behind what is going to push this energy movement towards alternative energy. Because if you think about it, it's going to defeat the purpose if you're driving an electric vehicle and it's being powered by fossil fuels. So they have to switch that over to alternative energy sources. This is another one. Electric cars will wipe out oil demand equal to Iran's output as early as 2025. This is just around the corner. For some people, it seems like a far out notion for everyone to be driving electric vehicles, but it's actually adopting very, very quickly, especially as the vehicles become more efficient, have longer driving distances, as the batteries get better. All of these things are currently being worked on by many, many different companies throughout the world, and it's actually a race to see who can provide the best battery and the longest distance cars. Some of the world's top automotive markets have recently proposed banning or curbing the use of vehicles that burn fossil fuels. They include developed European nations like France, Germany, UK, as well as other top growth markets such as China and India. So across the world, they are looking at outlawing, banning fossil fuel vehicles and moving to electric vehicles, including California. We are also considering doing this ban as well. Again, Bloomberg showing electric vehicles causing an epic crash in global oil prices as early as 2023. And it's not just for regular passenger vehicles. We're talking transportation across the board, from boats, planes, tractors, big rig vehicles, everything, you name it, buses. By the way, the city of Lancaster has replaced all of their city buses with 100% electric buses, which, by the way, happen to be built in a factory there in Lancaster, but that's besides the point. They said that it typically costs about $1.57 per mile to run a traditional fossil fuel burning bus. Now, with these all-electric buses, it's only 31 cents to run that bus per mile. 31 cents versus $1.57. Like I said, it comes down to the money. Where are they going to save money? And it just so happens to be good for the environment. Now imagine how much energy is going to be needed to power one electric bus. Just one passenger vehicle, electric vehicle, to be charged is equivalent to charging an entire house for the entire day, just to charge one vehicle. So imagine if every household has 1 to 2 vehicles, possibly more, that are electric. Every city has electric buses, electric trucks, etc. And you start looking at the possibilities for the electric consumption, it is huge. Massive amounts of electricity is going to be needed to power these vehicles. So again, Britain and France, they're banning cars. China, they're banning traditional auto engines and going to electric car domination. And then, of course, California, we are very much into being environmentally friendly and going green. California approved $768 million for electric vehicles. So California's electric utility companies, including PG&E, Southern California Edison, will spend nearly $768 million on charging infrastructure for electric cars, trucks, and buses under a series of proposals. So it's going to be throughout the state that they're going to have these charging stations for electric vehicles. And at first, when back in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, when they were first passing those mandates for California to go green energy, PG&E in Southern California Edison were fighting it. They didn't want to lose, funds to alternative energy. Well, now they're seeing the bigger picture. They're saying, oh, not only can we provide alternative energy, but now we can start making money off of transportation, which is a field they've never been able to make money off of. That was all the oil companies, the gas companies that were making that money. So it's an interesting power switch for the power companies themselves. So if you look at what's going on with all of these individual car manufacturers across the board, they are deciding to basically switch over to electric vehicles. A lot of these companies have gone into their old manufacturing plants and completely redid them so that they can now build electric vehicles with these plants. For example, GM promising to provide all electric cars by the year 2023, 20 different types of electric vehicles. So all of these companies are now competing against each other because they see what Tesla is doing, and Tesla is blowing everyone out of the water. I mean, Tesla literally has a waiting list to get their cars. Who doesn't want to have a waiting list for their product? So this is a recent article. California hit its climate goal early, the 33% mark, yay for California, but its biggest source of pollution keeps rising. That's a problem. So growth in renewable energy was the main reason California met its 2020 climate goal. All of this has to do with what we're selling today, which is land. These huge utility scale projects need the land in order to do it. But the biggest and biggest problem with pollution all has to do with the transportation industry. As you can see, this is kind of where they rate on as far as polluting California. So to reach its tougher 2030 goal, which is hitting at least 40% by the year 2030, California will have to pick up the pace and roughly double its greenhouse gas reductions. That feat, environmentalists say, will require not only a cleaner electrical grid, so more clean energy, but a rapid shift to zero emission vehicles, which will also mean more clean energy. Looking at the electricity sector 10 years ago, solar in that time went from exotic to conventional. Everyone would say, yeah, that's not possible. Now it's becoming more and more mainstream. And that's exactly what's going to happen with electric vehicles going forward. They're going to go from exotic to conventional in a very short period of time. I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Every day I see more and more electric vehicles on the road. And of course, most of them happen to be Tesla. Why? Because Tesla was the early adopter. They were the first ones to start coming out with electric vehicles. That's why all these other companies are now scrambling. California also has a cap and trade program, the only one in the nation, by which the state sets limits on emissions of greenhouse gases and lets polluters buy and sell permits to emit carbon dioxide. So a lot of these companies are going to want to switch from emitting greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide towards alternative energy. So right now, California is in a race to zero, and it's going to bring in a lot of fortunes for people who can see into that future, which happens to be us. So this is where the solar revolution is coming in, and our energy real estate is creating tremendous amounts of profits for our clients. And the reason why it's happening in the areas where we invest, which is the Antelope Valley, is because we are in the perfect location for this alternative energy creation. The darkest red is where the most intense sun is. A lot of that dark red, however, is government-owned land. You're talking Death Valley areas. You're not going to have huge utility scale projects out in government land. However, Lancaster, Palmdale, the Antelope Valley is right there as well, and they have the land for it. The infrastructure is already in for it, and companies have been coming in there at a very rapid pace. This is the mayor of Lancaster, and he says our goal is to attract the largest and best companies. The Antelope Valley must be the center of alternative energy development in much the same way the Silicon Valley became a hub for technology corporations. Imagine being able to own land in the Silicon Valley before it became the Silicon Valley. That is multi-generational wealth that can be created. Lancaster is the solar power capital of the universe. I mean, they're making huge waves in the solar industry. And like I said, they have become a model for other cities who want to become like them. As a matter of fact, Lancaster became their own energy company. They create all of their own energy and sell it back to their own customers at a cheaper rate than they would buy it from traditional Southern California Edison power. So it's saving money and it's making the city money. It's positioning that city to become one of the wealthiest cities in the country. And of course, every other city says, hey, I want to do that as well. But the problem for them is they don't have the land for it. For example, here's one of many, many solar projects that are out there. We had a lot of investors who have been consolidated during this period when it first started coming out. So this comes from the planning documents of LA County, specifically regarding renewable energy. The demand for renewable energy in California is expected to dramatically increase in the near future. The Antelope Valley has one of the most abundant sunshine in the country. This, along with the availability of undeveloped open spaces, gives the Antelope Valley a lot of potential for solar energy development, as well as other forms of renewable energy sources. And we have been controlling the land in this area for 40 years, long before any of this happened. So we're able to provide our investors with properties at really great prices, which you're going to see right now. So let's get into the properties. And just a reminder, out of 30 properties that Valour will look at any one time, they'll purchase about one. It's a 30-to-1 ratio because they're so strict with the criteria that every property must adhere through as it goes through our research department. And I've gone over all of those details on the original land banking presentation, which hopefully all of you have seen. If you haven't, please watch it. But so we're going to go into the two properties that have made it through the screening process. First property is 2.25 acres, works out to 1.41 net because it is frontage a road, which is a very good thing. If you can get frontage a road, that is always an excellent land to have. Are all of our properties frontage? No. Does that make it bad? No. It's just unique in that way. The particular zoning of the property is non-urban residential, basically an agricultural zoning, which is what we want for solar. This is the type of zoning that the solar is going into. They do not want solar consuming land meant for traditional types of developments. Purchase price $28,500. That works out to a little over $11,309 per acre, 26 cents per square foot, for a total of 109,771 square feet that you would be controlling. It's really a huge amount of land if you think about it. Most houses sit on roughly 7,000 square feet. That's the size of traditional housing lots. Sometimes a lot smaller, especially here in the Bay Area. All the new housing lots seem to be very small, maybe 3,000 square feet, because we're running out of land. That's just a fact of it. So this is what's called a plat map. This shows the details of the particular property. Kind of what I already mentioned. Location, Avenue B10 and 110th Street West. So here we are, B10, so here's Avenue C, Avenue B, there's B2, B4, B6, B8, B10, that's where B10 comes from, and then 110th Street West. You can see our frontage, this road, which is already paved and has electricity. It would cost more to put in infrastructure like this than the cost of the property, honestly. So this is part of the reason, and I'm sure some of you have noticed the price differences between the two properties. This is part of the reason why this one is more expensive per acre than the other one, because it is frontage a paved road that has a lot of that has utilities already in it. Plus, it is nearby several solar projects, new and existing ones, which we will go into here shortly. So now we're going to look at the 3-mile radius of the property. So the Urban Land Institute has done studies, and they found when a new development comes into an area, it causes the surrounding values of land within a 3-mile radius to increase in value for all new developments coming in within that 3 miles. So within 3 miles, that's a 10% appreciation, 2 miles is a 20% appreciation, and 1 mile is a 30% appreciation. And these numbers, again, are coming from the Urban Land Institute, and from what I have seen are very conservative numbers, which is fine. We'd always rather be conservative. So here's a Google Earth map. This is showing the property right here where the little pin is. There's the 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile radius. You can see all of the yellow in the near vicinity. Those are all either existing or new solar projects that are coming in. And then this purple line right here, that is the high tension power lines that Southern California Edison spent money putting in. So let's go over some of those projects. First off, the infrastructure. Infrastructure is very important when it comes to investing in land, not just roads, but obviously high tension power lines as well, because we're dealing with electricity. So that's what's moving the electricity. Southern California Edison back in 2009 timeframe spent $3.5 billion putting in high tension power lines across the Antelope Valley specifically for one reason: to safely deliver power produced by the wind and sun to population centers across Southern California. The infrastructure is there. That's very important. So here we can see these are the high tension power lines running across the Antelope Valley. Then they go over the Angeles National Forest into the LA metro areas where the huge population centers are and need the energy. So one huge project that's coming in just to the north of this property, it's roughly 2 square miles of land, 2 whole square miles of land, 1,402 acres. Here's 110th Street West, directly to the north. There's Avenue A. Avenue A, by the way, is the Kern County, LA County line. So this property is located in LA County. And this particular property or project is called Willow Springs Solar and is being done by First Solar. First Solar is a company owned by Christy Walton, which is from the Walmart Waltons. She is, I believe, the wealthiest woman in the world because of her inheritance from her late husband, John Walton. And she inherited First Solar as part of that. Now, Apple, if you remember, I said Apple was one of the many Fortune 100, 500 companies that has committed to going green. Apple did a deal directly with First Solar saying we're going to buy all of our energy from First Solar, and that was a $850 million contract directly with First Solar. And again, that First Solar project is directly to the north. Here's an offer letter that came to one of our investors from First Solar, and the initial purchase price on this particular property was for $23,000 per acre, $23,000 per acre from First Solar. And as an initial offer, typically you do not accept those from developers. They want to lowball you from the start to try to see how cheap they can go, because a lot of times they think you don't know anything about land. And luckily you have Allure behind you helping you out with those negotiations to help move those dollars up. Also, a property or a project within the 3-mile radius is Warren Buffett's project. So you're in good company with 2 billionaires. This particular project is about a mile away. You can see here's 115th Street West, and the property is along 110th Street West, and there's Avenue B. So it's just right off of the map here that we're looking at. So Warren Buffett's project, it originally started at around 4,000 acres of land, 6.25 square miles, and these are actual pictures of it. when it was being constructed a couple of years ago. Now the size of it is just under 9 square miles of land. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you saw a development that was 9 square miles? Probably never. I don't think there even exists such a thing other than huge utility scale solar projects. So they are very, very land intensive. And there's only so much land available, and there's only so much land available in the areas where they can do this power generation. And of course, at Valour, we know exactly where in California they're allowed to do those things. So here's another project coming in. This pink right here, this is all Warren Buffett's project. And then the orange, this is Rosamond Solar. This is another project. It's not Warren Buffett, but it's another project that's kind of puzzle piecing into where Warren Buffett's projects are. So companies like to follow each other. I mean, think about when you go to a corner and there's a gas station on every single corner of an intersection. Is one gas station company will do the studies to decide if this is where they want to be. They'll do the feasibility studies, and then they decide that's where we want to go, and everyone else follows them. Same things happen with Walmart. Walmart does the feasibility studies, and everyone just follows them. That's the same thing that's kind of happening here. Warren Buffett comes in, everyone else just follows. So here's another project in the near vicinity, North Lancaster Ranch. And actually this map is a little bit old. It's not showing the full scale of this project. It goes all the way over to the corner here. Just to the north of this property is North Lancaster Ranch, which is being done by a company called S-Power. And S-Power did some direct deals with the city of Lancaster to provide all of their energy that they create directly to the city of Lancaster. And then right down here where these borders are, this is another new solar project that was just approved last year. We had several investors who were consolidated during when that project was coming about. All of that, again, is within the 3-mile radius. And here's another project that we were just notified about, July 31st, 2018. Actually, one of my clients sent this to me. She received it because she has a property nearby, and they're talking about Raceway Solar Project. So this is the map that they sent us. Here's where this particular property is, and then you can see the sites that they plan on putting some solar. I sent this over to Valour, and Valour got back to me and they said this map is only a portion of what is really going on. And apparently on the next Tuesday night update, I highly recommend getting on if you can, he's going to be showing the true scale of this project. But in any case, whatever the case may be, new projects are coming in, and then you can see these colored lines. These are all interconnection lines that they have running through the area. So again, infrastructure. You're right along the infrastructure. That's one of the things that makes this property very unique and desirable for solar companies. This is a Google Earth map that I kind of stole from Valour. I didn't steal it, but I received it and I'm told not to give it out to anyone. It is older. I've got this probably in 2016, so it does not represent all of the new solar projects that have come in the last couple of years. But if you look at it, so here's the overall Antelope Valley. All of the colored areas that you see here are gone. For some reason or another, either they cannot be developed or like this dark kind of reddish color, those are all solar projects coming in. This is square miles of land. Roughly 186 square miles of land. And then the pink salmon up here, that's all solar. I mean, it's not solar, wind. And then the yellow is wind. So it's running out quickly. And then over here, they want to keep all of this for traditional community development. And the property is located roughly right there. So real quickly, Kern County is just to the north of this property. Kern County has a lot of high-tech industries coming into the area, also home to Edwards Air Force Base, which is just down the street from where this property is. Brings in $1.49 billion annually to the area. So there's a lot of personnel that live in the area who work there. Housing is a huge need in the area because this is kind of the last remaining available land in LA County. LA County is the most populated county in the entire country. So on top of renewable energy, construction and housing is very important. Increase in economic activity in the Antelope Valley as a whole will spur demand for new housing and construction projects. So one of the main projects that's coming in nearby this property to the north is Willow Springs Pacific Plan, a little over 50,000 acres of land, which will include 65,000 homes, over 10.5 million square feet of commercial and industrial coming in just to the north of this property. LA County is expecting to get 1 million new residents by the year 2035. Where they're going to live, well, that happens to be where we're buying land because there's a severe housing shortage in LA County and actually across the entire state. LA County is home to around, it's actually 10.3 million people right now, and the new report says 11.2 by the year 2035. So basically, one of the reasons for showing this is, number one, because this is happening within the 3 miles of the property, but also so you understand the competition for land between energy resources and for traditional development, because our population keeps rising, and as the population keeps rising, we keep needing more energy. It just works that way. So population growth in LA County, you can see where the majority of it is going into the Antelope Valley area, known as the V1 area. And of course, where is it going to get a lot of housing? By the way, these maps that I'm showing you are coming from the Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG. Most housing is going to be going up into the northern LA County area because that's where the land is available for it. So land is a finite situation, and as the solar companies start gobbling it up, those prices keep going up. So that's that property. Located on B10 and 110th Street West for $28,500. This is a very good starting point if this is kind of the dollar range that you're looking at. And obviously it's a great property, good infrastructure, and new and existing solar projects coming into the vicinity. Again, these ones have yet to be built, and I just recently saw that this one is under construction, so that's going to create equity gain as it's being built out. And then this is the newer project that was just proposed last year. Now let's talk about the last property, 20 acres, huge property. Like I said, it's a rare gem. Finding large acreages, it's few and far between now, especially since these solar companies have been coming up. They go after all the big parcels first because that's easiest, and then they start going down to the smaller parcels. So again, this is the same zoning as the other one, non-urban residential, ag land, keeping it very affordable for us, $115,000. That works out to only $5,750 per acre. This might be one of the least expensive properties I've seen. I was surprised by the dollar amount that they're providing it at this price, 13 cents per square foot. And it's a total of 871,200 square feet. That is huge. That's enough land to build 124 homes on. Imagine how much land you can own with that, $115,000, and you can buy it for cheaper than a house. That's the best part about it, and it causes no problems. So this is the plat map of the property, again showing the details, 20 acres. The location is north of Holiday. There's Holiday Avenue and 250th Street West. 250th Street West, again, we're frontage a road. But then the infrastructure on this road is not there yet. That's why it's a much cheaper per square foot price. It's also a little further out. That does not make it bad either. Right now, a lot is happening for investors in this particular area. So the main projects that are in this area are done by a company called Recurrent Energy. I'll go into the details about Recurrent Energy here shortly. Here again is the 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile radius. Now up here to the north, they're not going to go very far because it starts sloping up into the mountains. Huge mountainous range here. So it's very limited, the land on this side of the Antelope Valley. This is toward the western side of Antelope Valley. Here we have just to the south down here, you'll see Highway 138. Highway 138 meets up with Interstate 5 to the west over here, which is where the Grapevine is. So you've probably seen, as you're going over the Grapevine, exits to Highway 138, which points to Lancaster and Palmdale. This is where you would be coming in at, and this is at the western side of the Antelope Valley. So Recurrent Energy, again, that's the company that was directly to the south, and they have partnered with Google to do their solar project. So Google helped fund them, and Google has invested over $1 billion in wind and solar facilities throughout the country. Recurrent Energy is a leading solar project developer located out of our very own San Francisco Bay Area. And here you can see Google and Recurrent have invested in 4 different Recurrent solar farms. So first, originally Recurrent Energy, by the way, this property is located inside of Kern County. And the original project that Recurrent Energy did was a project called Astoria, which started at 1,400 acres total capacity. Then it grew to a little over 1,500 acres. Then it grew to 1,519 acres. And then finally, when it was announced to the public, they put it at 2,060 acres. Huge project by called Astoria, done by Recurrent Energy just to the south of this property. Along Avenue A and 170th to 212th Street West. And again, this property is located on 250th Street West. So Astoria was the first one. Here's the actual project itself. You can see there they are. There's the Whirlwind substation, so they just tie into that. Then there's a second project that came in known as Garland. That's 2,055 acres, also done by Recurrent. And this one extends from 205th Street West out to 240th Street West, just to the south of this property, which is on 250th Street West. So here's the actual project. Astoria is over here on the right, and then Garland puzzled pieced into the left. There's 240th, there's 250th. There's roughly where the property is located in relation to it. And we had several investors getting offers and sold to Recurrent Energy. Started back in 2013 when they got the offers. However, the project didn't get completed until just last year. Of course, all of that takes time, but getting the land comes in first. So a 10-acre parcel that they purchased for original offer. Sorry, they didn't purchase it for this. The original offer was $13,000 per acre. And this is just to the south of the property. And this was in 2013. It's one of the reasons why I love this property. It's only $5,700 per acre. And already 5 years ago, our investors were getting $13,000 per acre offers here. They had bought the property for $6,200 per acre, so a little bit more than what we're able to get this one. I guess we're lucky on this one. Velour was able to get a really good deal on this one. Here's another 10-acre parcel for a completely different person. They got the initial offer price at $11,500 per acre. No difference in land. Velour, of course, sees the 2 different offers coming in, so we help our investors do the negotiations, which they ended up being well above $13,000 per acre for both of these investors. I do not know what the final offer price was, as they were not my investors, and typically they're required to sign a non-disclosure agreement with the developer. But I do know it was over $13,000. And then there's a third project called Recurrent Gaskell West Solar, and this is coming in just to the left of the last one at 1,463 acres. Huge property. So between the three of them, almost 6,000 acres of land. That is a massive amount of land just for one company. And this is the Recurrent West project. So you can see the other ones were to the right of it. And here's the star represents where the property is located in relation to these solar projects. We also have investors who sold out on this one as well. One of them happens to be a 40-acre parcel directly to the south. So here's 250th Street West, same road that this property is located on, but to the north of it. There's Gaskell. Here's the property, which was 40 acres. And they had purchased it for $200,000, ended up selling it for $640,000 or $16,000 per acre just to the south of the property, and this was back in 2015. Keep in mind, as there's less land available, the value continues to go up. So when a developer contacts the lucky owner of this property, I would definitely comfortably say a starting point would be $16,000 per acre. So here's some news articles that came out when the Recurrent Energies were being completed. Garland was first, and Astoria. Basically, Astoria is able to power 40,000 homes with clean energy. And some of the cities that are buying the energy are cities of Azusa, Banning, Colton, Vernon, Power and Water Resources Pooling Authority, Corona, Lodi, Moreno Valley, Rancho Cucamonga. Everyone needs energy. They just don't have the land to create the energy. So the energy is being created here in the Antelope Valley and then sold across the state. Cities of Walnut Creek, Napa County, even Stanford, they're buying green energy, and they're buying it directly from the utility companies, which are basically buying green credits from Southern California Edison, where the energy is being created. So this energy is essentially being ported throughout the state. So here's Recurrent Astoria. Here is the LA County, Kern County line, Avenue A. There's Recurrent. Right next to Recurrent is Buffett. This is Christy Walton. All of the billionaires are here investing in solar facilities on our land. Here's some pictures of the Recurrent projects that I was out there checking out. And you can see there's wind projects there in the background, and then you can see the mountains behind that. So it's limited flat space land. This is actually a Recurrent energy project here that we've seen 3 times now. So this is where the property is located in relation to some of the solar projects. However, they're missing the Recurrent West one here on this particular map because it had not been officially instated when I got this map. So it's just to the north of it. And these blue, by the way, are investors that got offers for Recurrent West. And then there's another property just to the right of this one. I don't know the exact location of it because one of my investors did not buy it. It's actually a Velour associate who purchased that property, but I know they have already started receiving land lease offers for that property, and that is just to the east of where this property is located and to the north of the Recurrent projects. So we're right there in the vicinity of a lot of offers coming into our investors. In the end, all of this has to do with California's renewable energy and climate change goals. You can see where we're at. You can see the target where they want to hit. And our emissions are going to keep going up unless we start doing electric vehicles. And as those electric vehicles come in, that's just more energy consumption and energy that needs to be created, putting us in literally the perfect location for owning this land. And land is finite. Like any finite resource, land becomes more valuable when it is scarce. So the best investment on earth truly is earth. If you look back through it, wealth has been created forever through land. And I mean, wars have been fought over land. It's the original investment on earth. This is a great property if you guys have the money for it, 13 cents per square foot, $5,750 per acre. If you don't have all of the money for it, we can, of course, do partnerships with people. That is a possibility. Rick kind of mentioned that in the beginning. So
Hey, Marcella,
yes.
before you close, I want to give you an update on what is sold and what isn't sold. Would you like to hear that now?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So the 2.5 acre looks like it's sold, so I want to announce how that works. So if someone else is interested in that property, still give me a text or an email, because if any reason it falls off, you'll be next in line. And then if it does sell, we can always get you one. And then the larger property, I received an email from one of our multiple time investors who's interested in partnering on that property. I don't have a dollar amount yet, but that person's interested in partnering on it. So if other people want to get a piece of that larger property you just profiled, please let me know ASAP, and then we'll talk about putting a partnership together. That's my update.
Perfect. Well, there you go, everyone. Congratulations to those of you who are jumping in on these opportunities. And if you're interested in partnering on that larger parcel, please let us know as soon as possible. We need to get that worked out as quickly as possible before we lose the property. So again, thank you all for joining us this wonderful Saturday morning. We appreciate your time most of all, and I hope you at least learned something new. And if you're interested in the property, let us know, or if you're interested in another property, let us know. We also have land that does not have to do with solar. It has to do with traditional types of development, from industrial to housing, etc. So if you're looking for a different type of land, we can also provide you with that as well. All right, thank you all for joining us, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Take care, everyone.